Good morning, beautiful people. Shauna here. Last night we had the stepping stones and we were talking about the idea of selfishness, the acts of self care, the practices that a woman engages in order to love herself more, being looked at by others as selfish, but really it's about the belief that women as individuals carry around that tells them that when they focus on themselves, that's a selfish act. At the end of our Stepping Stones event last evening, I asked everyone what they were going to do. What was one thing that they were going to do this week to love themselves a little bit more? And my answer was to not ruminate about my performance in week 4 of the Stepping Stones. So when I was sipping my coffee this morning, it's interesting, so many things come to me in the morning, first thing in the morning when the world is still quiet and I have time to process. But I wrote down some notes to help me remember exactly what I wanted to say. Rumination, and this is going to be definitely a topic we'll talk about in the Stepping Stones, is okay if you're taking the time to, or let me speak for myself, if I'm taking the time to consider what I could have done better, what I would have done differently. It becomes a problem when we're replaying stories over and over again in our minds, and then we're piling on more crap by beating ourselves up, judging ourselves, criticizing ourselves for what we said, for what we did, for how we handled it. Let me say, for what I did, for what I said, for how I handled or managed or hosted the room last night. So it can step over a line where it becomes an issue. It's a negativity. It's something that we need to pull ourselves out of. So I gave myself a little bit of time to consider everything I did last night and everything I said. And I could see where I could have done differently. But one of the ways that I'm offering compassion to myself is accepting where I am as the host of the Self-Love Society, as the host of the weekly Stepping Stones, here at week 4. I'm 4 weeks in, and I'm still feeling out the waters, getting a sense of how do I want to be, and it's probably going to be different every week. But what is the type of role I want to settle into every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m.? So that was one of the things I talked about, that idea of, well, I'm going to give myself a break because I've never done something like this before, in this capacity. I'm understanding every week, again, what kind of role I want to settle into, and I'm doing the best I can. Loving myself. So this is a question I was going to bring in today. What does loving yourself look like in any given moment? Loving myself earlier when I was thinking about this, even last night when I got off the call, is accepting how it all transpired. Accepting who I was, what I said, how I behaved. Now you're probably all curious. You're all like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to check out this week because I think something crazy happened. No, it didn't. This is a practice of becoming increasingly aware of myself and understanding ways I'm not loving myself so that I can choose differently within me and choose to love myself more. So I bring you these videos because these are my own personal experiences that I hope resonate with you in some way so that you begin to look at yourself, areas of your life, with a little bit more gentleness, kindness, compassion, but also looking at yourself truthfully. So I wrote down, how does all of this tie into loving myself, which I just explained a little bit to you. The thing is, and this is where I went with my notes, I was absolutely exhausted yesterday. I woke up, I set an alarm. I was up in Maine, way up in the state of Maine, and I set an alarm for 4 a.m. because I knew I wanted to be home early. It was just under a 4 hour drive home. So I was up at 4, I was home by 8, unpacking my car, the whole thing. And I've come to understand that as I get older, travel takes more out of me. And yesterday I was exhausted. I did lie down a couple of times, but why am I telling you all of this? Well, because I did consider postponing last night until next week. And this is something that we talked about last night, the idea of setting a personal boundary for ourselves and taking care of ourselves and what that means to other people. So, what would loving myself look like? Would it be canceling because I'm exhausted? Hosting and being true to my commitments? Was I there last night to please the members of the living room? So I sat with those questions this morning and I was curious, right? Foundational practices, cultivating curiosity and honest self exploration that is deeper than surface level. I did have a moment of, yeah, I don't want to disappoint everyone. I am on a roll. It's week 4. This is brand new. I don't want to cancel. I want to be there for them. I don't want them to be upset. But that was fleeting. For me, this experience, it was more about showing up for myself because this is a commitment I made. And I know that I call these arenas when I've been in the amateur arena, and now I feel like I'm more in a professional arena. And when I was in the amateur arena, self sabotaging, because I'm very aware of my self sabotaging tendencies, I would have canceled. But now that I feel like I've stepped into my own personal professional arena with what I want to create and what I want to bring to the world, i.e., the Self Love Society and the Stepping Stones, I don't want to be sending those mixed messages out to the universe of, hey, I'm all in. Yep, this is what I want to do. But then, you know what? I'm not going to do this because of whatever, because I'm tired. Because I'm tired. But I was really honest with myself. Why am I doing it? Why am I hosting? Because I'm showing up for me and I'm showing up for the members and because I want to. Very different than I have to or I need to or they're going to be upset at me. They're not going to like me. They're not going to come back to the Self-Love Society. So I did it because I said, I don't want to send mixed messages out into the universe. Loving myself is showing up every week and doing the best I can, not ruminating for more than a brief check-in about my performance and how I could have done something different or better. How can I be better inside of myself next week? Right? So this falls in line with, this is part of the acceptance. 3 A's, acknowledging yourself, approving of yourself, and accepting yourself, all lead to, and I want to throw in some forgiveness there too, but all lead to the idea of loving yourself unconditionally. So I accepted that I was exhausted. I accepted that I really did want to do it. I accepted the fact that I am showing up for myself because I'm tired of not showing up for myself, giving up in some way, i.e., self-sabotaging tendency. And here I am, being vulnerable and honest again with you, shining my light, even if it's vulnerable and honest, gives you permission to do the same when you're ready, at times when it's important to do so, and with the people it's important to do so with. And you all are important enough for me to be vulnerable and honest because in that is self-love. I'm loving myself more because I'm looking at myself honestly through the practice of curiosity and asking myself, where's my question that I wrote down here? What would loving myself look like? And that's a question I invite you to take with you throughout your day today and into every day. Every experience that you have, that moment where you want to say no to someone, but your tendency is to say yes because you don't want to upset the person because you think you're responsible for how they feel or how they respond. Stop and ask yourself, what would loving myself right now look like? And you may start to get those feelings of, you can't do that. That's selfish. You have to say yes to that person. So just become aware of it. Even if you do say yes and you ride that wave of habit or tendency, it's okay. Look back gently in retrospect. If you have the opportunity to set up a boundary with someone and you're nervous about it, you're nervous about speaking your truth. We talked a little bit about that last night and what happens in the dynamics of a relationship when you begin to speak your truth and set up boundaries. Ask yourself, what would loving myself right now look like? What would that do? What decision can I make that would bring me to higher levels of self-love? I'm going to stop there because my inner crone wisdom is beginning to rise within me. I can feel the heat. And I think those of you who are my age, in your 50s, your 60s, you know what I'm talking about. I don't like to use those words that the general public, most women use, but the warmth has turned on and I can feel my lip starting to sweat a little. How about that for some detailed information? But I understand that you get me. So thank you so much for listening. Week 4 of the Stepping Stones, the replay is there. And I hope you go and take a listen. And in any section, lesson, those are under lessons. In any offering, there's a place for comments. So if you listen to any particular week and you want to drop a comment, you can do it right there inside of the weekly replays of the Stepping Stones. Love yourself. Thank you so much for listening.